Hi, welcome to a brief introduction of local history and what resources are available at MRL and the greater Harrisonburg-Rockingham County area. So, what is local history? It seems silly, but at its most basic, it's history that is local. The Library of Congress defines it as the study of history in a geographically bounded area, such as a region, a state, a county, a city, a town, a village, or a neighborhood. I would go so far as to add an organization like the library, a college like JMU, or even a family like yours or mine. So, why do we study it? Who's going to care about, for example, Harrisonburg history other than Harrisonburg people? It can also be a microcosm of state or national history. For example, the large German population in the Shenandoah Valley is part of a greater world migration pattern. Until World War I, Liberty Street was named German Street. Suddenly hailing from Germany was not considered patriotic. So that can tell us something about the nation as a whole. Some researcher might one day use that bit of info about Harrisonburg to inform a larger study on a national scale. People in general also care about where they come from, which is the basis of interest in genealogy. Learning about family history can bring people together and encourage intergenerational storytelling and the passing of traditions, which is a lovely thought. Genealogy and local history can contribute to a deeper personal identity as well. Discovering the lives of your ancestors helps put your own life experience into a broader context and provides a greater sense of belonging. Even if you're not originally from a place, knowing its history can inform how the community became what it is now. For example, several years ago, a gentleman did a project on African American property ownership in antebellum Harrisonburg, which we have linked on our website. I can't remember if it was an academic project or a personal interest, but his goal was to reintegrate this marginalized group of people into Harrisonburg's historical landscape. And that's really important work. So basically, it's really important to preserve our history before the evidence disappears. How does this community use local history resources? A lot of local historians will use our resources to publish books or to write articles for historical journals. Um, there is one guy who's been doing research for years on his family history and hopes to write a book about it. Um, I like when people come in to look up stories about their high school sporting teams, is so they can see, their heyday when they were the quarterback and they had all these articles about them in the newspaper, and they get so happy just remembering those good times, and it's always so fun to watch. Some people have used our resources to make birthday gifts. They'll take the front page of a newspaper, or even the entire paper from the day someone was born, and create a newspaper to commemorate their birthday. Um, Local resources can also be used to inform wider history. I had a researcher from out west researching traveling music in this area in the 1930s, and she was looking for articles from our newspaper about traveling groups at the time. And of course, lots of people do family history research because people love doing their family trees and knowing where they came from. Um, as I mentioned, we have at least one patron who's been working on a book for years about his family, and we've also been able to get him resources such as microfilm from the Library of Virginia, which is an excellent transition to what other local history resources are available. So, the Library of Virginia is the most comprehensive resource in the world for the study of Virginia history, culture, and government. I could talk forever about their resources, but I'll point out two things specifically. First, they have a project called Virginia Chronicle, which is a historical archive of Virginia newspapers, providing free access to full text searching and digitized images of over 3 million newspaper pages and counting. They also have an ongoing project to make public high school yearbooks available online. So, for example, MRL actually sent Broadway high school yearbooks to them, and they digitized all of them. So now you can access those yearbooks physically in our collection, but you can also see them online from wherever you are. The Minnow Simons Historical Library is one of EMU's libraries. They collect, maintain, and provide access to materials that represent Anabaptist and Mennonite experiences, as well as resources relating to the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. The Plains District Memorial Museum works to preserve local heritage and bring the communities of the Plains District together. So that's the area up around Broadway and Timberville. Um, They have a really good example of connecting us to larger scale history. They have in their collection some information on the World War II POW camp that was in Timberville, where German soldiers who were imprisoned helped, they were kept in this camp and they helped farmers with the harvest. They worked in canning factories and did all sorts of things like that during the war. The Rockingham County Circuit Court has really great information like land grants and minute books. We're really lucky that our clerk of court, Chaz Haywood, has worked hard to organize, preserve, and then make these records available to the public. One good example of a good local history partnership is between JMU and the clerk of court. It's called Histories Across the Blue Ridge. Um, they've digitized a lot of resources from the courthouse and some from JMU as well, I believe. But one of the collections in there is actually about local families in the Elkton area who were moved off of the mountain to create Skyline Drive, which again, that's part of a more national scale issue having to do with the Great Depression and the Works Progress Administration and the Civilian Conservation Corps and eminent domain. So once again, our little communities are part of a more national picture. Rocktown History is the museum of the Harrisonburg-Rockingham Historical Society. Their mission is to preserve and share the stories of the area and its people, highlighting their influences on our shared past. They also do local history programs and have a library on site. More than any resource than the courthouse, we are constantly sending people from the library there to continue their local history research. And then I also want to mention the Shenandoah Valley Black Heritage Project, which they have a mission to learn, share, and illuminate the rich African American history and culture of the Shenandoah Valley. They also have a small library on site, and they put on some fascinating programs, including some really cool film productions that they've done. So I suggest checking all of these resources out if you're interested in doing more local history research. MRL has several local history projects going on or past. We are working on a project right now called Century of Stories. The library was founded in 1928, so our 100th anniversary is coming up in 2028. And so we started working on collecting oral histories of people who have used the library or worked at the library or have had some connection to the library over the years. So that project has kind of been put on pause while we were working on other things, but we do have a very clear 2028 deadline, so that will probably be picking up again soon. A regular event that we have is the Diary Program series on local history and culture, where each October we gather, do a 4-part series, and we gather local experts to talk about themes in Shenandoah Valley history and culture. So in past years, we have had thematic topics ranging from preservation to African American history to agriculture to immigration. This year's topic is medical history. So we have had a wide range of topics, and that is a program series that is funded by the children of Henry Price Dyerly and Mary Dyerly, who were early collectors of early Americana and Shenandoah Valley history and culture. So their children have endowed this program series so that we can continue their legacy of keeping our local history alive. The Valley Changes series and Vanishing Farms project were two oral history projects that we did about 15, 20 years ago. Valley Changes, we focused on interviewing people who were 80 years older to, remember what the Valley was like when they were young and throughout their lives and how it had changed. And then the Vanishing Farms project was similar. We interviewed people who lived on their family farms and have been working the land and, to pass on their memories of what the farm was like for themselves and their parents before these farms all disappear. The Veterans History Project is a national project that was pushed by the Library of Congress. They had volunteers all over the country interview veterans, and MRL volunteered to interview our local veterans. So a lot of their oral histories you can hear actually on the Library of Congress website, although not all of them have made it there. So all of the originals and transcriptions are in our collection here at the library. We also have a photograph collection that we are slowly but surely working on digitizing. So this on the right is an example of one of our photos. So this is our online digital collection. So it's small right now, but we're constantly working on expanding it. Of course, we have to figure out if we have the copyright um, permissions on collections, whether we own them or not. But if we browse our collections, you can see several of our collections are actually called Kaufman Photo Album. So Floyd Wilmer Kaufman was a Harrisonburg resident who worked as a photographer in the Army's aerial photographic reconnaissance arm during World War I. So we have lots of photos from his time during World War I, including aerial photos that he took from planes. But so, for example, this is the Third Army headquarters in Koblenz, Germany. And we have put as much information as we can about every photo and tagged them with relevant tags. So if you want to see all of the photos of Koblenz, you can click on that and you can see we have 37 different photos from that town. Go back to browse collections here. Several of these, for example, the Rockingham Bird Club slideshow, they donated these to us, and you can see pictures of local birds. The Harrisonburg-Rockingham County Independence Bicentennial Commission presentation slides are also, like the bird collection, were actually from slides. There's some really neat ones on here. So, for example, here's East Market Street. You can see the courthouse down in the distance, and the road still dirt there. And another one I really like in this collection is the Daily News Records press room back in the day. So they're setting type and getting the newspaper out ready to go. So those are fun. We also provide online resources, including Ancestry Library Edition, Heritage Quest, and Newsbank. Ancestry Library Edition is only available in the library. The exception is Ancestry for Virginians, which is a collection of Virginia records that the Library of Virginia digitized and let Ancestry use. I'm going to open our genealogy and local history page, where we have our links to our online resources. So Ancestry Library here. We'll click on Begin Searching. And I'm going to search for Conrad Logan. He was actually the president of the Rockingham Library Association Board from 1928 to 1948, and he was instrumental in getting our local history collection started. So I like to search for him. All right, so the first record that we get is a World War II draft card. You can see we get a transcription as well as an image. Now, like most online resources, you will be able to filter your results. So, for example, if we just wanted to look at military records, I can click on military. And so this helps us find, we found his World War II draft card, but here we can also see his World War I draft card because he's the right age where he was old enough for World War I and also young enough for World War II. And then if we want to go back and look at all the records, we can hit the little X by the military. And it'll show us the entire record list. So you can see there's census records, there's death records. I enjoy the fact that there are yearbook records. So here is his 1933 Harrisonburg High School picture. But then farther along, you can see when he was a teacher at the state normal school. This is a photo from that yearbook. All right, next we're going to take a look at Heritage Quest. It was formerly owned by ProQuest, which is where the name came from, but it is now owned by Ancestry. So you'll notice that it looks somewhat similar. There's an overlap in content here, but unlike the Ancestry Library Edition, this one is available at home with your library card. You have to search a little more focused and do one collection at a time instead of doing every collection at once. So you can see we have census records, books, wills, city directories, military records, immigration records, just tons of stuff in here. The Freedmen's Bank, I will point out specifically, this is going to be key for people doing African American research. I'm going to start with a book search here. And I'm going to look for our friend Conrad Logan again in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Search. And you'll see that the first result is for this book called Men of Mark and Representative Citizens of Harrisonburg and Rockingham County. This is a classic book in Harrisonburg history. It's basically a bunch of mini biographies about local dignitaries, mostly white men. This came out many, many years ago. So here we have a picture of Conrad Logan and and this is just the full text of the entire book. Some of these we can tell are not the person we're looking for because it's just the word Logan. Here's one called Historic Harrisonburg. I think we can safely assume that this one is going to be the one we're looking for. So yes, this is a timeline of Harrisonburg events, and we can see that he died in 1948, and that he was a library promoter, and that a couple months later, the Madison Quarterly devoted an entire issue to Conrad T. Logan and the Rockingham Public Library, which is now MRL. Now, if you're interested in more information on the book, you can click here on the title, and it'll actually give you information about this. So the book was written by John Walter Wayland, who is a giant in Harrisonburg history. It was published in Stanton by McClure Print in 1949. So if you want to go get a hold of the physical book, now you know what you're looking for. Let's go back home and look for wills and probate records. So these are by state, and they are not alphabetized, and I can just tell you that Virginia is at the very bottom. So we're going to look for Conrad Logan again, who lived in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And this first record looks likely to be him, so we're going to click on the image. And you can see that this is actually just a general index to wills from Rockingham County. So here he is here, 1948, Logan Conrad T. And so he's on will book page number 15, page 505. So that is probably something that we would be able to find in the courthouse. All right, if we go back to the home page of Heritage Quest, I do want to point out that they have some research aids and maps here. I think these maps can be particularly interesting. They go by state, so if we look at Virginia here, you can see these are for the census years from 1790 to 1920. And if you look particularly closely at Rockingham County, you'll see this white outline. This is now Page County here. So this little corner of Page County was once part of Rockingham County. So if you're looking for records for this part of Page County in 1790, you should probably actually look at Rockingham County records instead. So if we click from year to year, you'll see those lines change a little bit. And so by 1840, Page County exists, and that is no longer Rockingham County. It's also interesting to note that Washington, D.C. Is now, they took that chunk back, it's now part of Arlington and Alexandria. So That's an interesting and useful tool so that to help you know where you should be looking for records, what jurisdiction. All right, and then the last resource I wanted to show you was the newspaper archives, which are on Newsbank. We have the Newsbank broken out so that you can go straight to the paper you're looking for, like the local paper, but it also has hundreds more nationally and internationally. So I'm just going to open up the Daily News Record. So here's the landing page. You can see that we have the Daily News Record from 1993 to 2023. So it's not really likely that we'll find anything about Conrad Logan, but I'm going to search for his name just to see. And you see we have one result here, which is an obituary for Joseph Talford Logan. And if we click on that, we'll get the full text. And we can see that Conrad T. Logan was mentioned because he is the father of Joseph Talford Logan. So right now, this is the primary or local newspaper access that we have at the library. Hopefully one day we will have something like Newspaper Archive or newspapers.com, but for right now, Newsbank is really, it's very thorough. It's just more recent coverage. So hopefully one day we'll have a farther back archive. But in the meantime, you have other ways to access newspapers. So we also have physical collections. We'll start with microfilm. We have the Daily News Record on microfilm from July 1913 to the present, or to within the last year. We get them regularly. We have the Rockingham Register and miscellaneous other local newspapers starting in October 1822. We have census records for Rockingham and surrounding counties from 1790. We do keep the current physical paper until the microfilm arrives, so we are never without an issue. We have 2 microfilm readers in our genealogy room, so there's plenty of room for multiple people to research at once on the newspapers. We also have monographs, including family histories, church histories, organization histories, school yearbooks. We really rely on donations for a lot of these because a lot of them are either self-published or smaller runs. So it's important when you're doing research to think about who wrote the book that you're looking at, how accurate they are, what their goal was in writing the book, whether they have the historic research methodology and source citation to back up their research. But there's a lot of good information out there. We also have larger scale publications such as telephone directories and city directories. Anything that is available in our print collection is going to be in our catalog online. So for example, let's look up the book we were looking at earlier in Heritage Quest, Men of Mark. So here's that book, Men of Mark and Representative Citizens of Harrisonburg and Rockingham County by John Wayland. You can see that we have a couple of copies that you can actually check out. And then we have a copy in our genealogy room, one in our vault, which I will talk about more in a little bit. And then also the Page branch has a copy in its genealogy collection as well. So any physical books that are in our genealogy collection, you will be able to find in our online catalog. If you like the look of this book, most of them have pretty good subject terms. So if you want more Rockingham County biography, you can click on that. And you should find a list of books here that have to do with biography of Rockingham County residents. We also have serials, so magazines and journals, including Virginia Magazine of History and Biography, William and Mary Quarterly, the Magazine of Virginia Genealogy, Virginia Cavalcade. We have maps that we have a full index to on our website, on our genealogy and local history page. We also have physical atlases, including some older, there's a there's an 1885 lake atlas that I just think is really fun in our genealogy collection that lots of people enjoy looking at. We also have a photograph collection. I mentioned the digitization work we've been doing earlier. We're working on making as many as we can publicly accessible, but right now, if it's not digitized and we do have the physical photo, there is an index of that on our website as well. And we are happy to pull anything at the reference desk so that you can look at those photographs. Then we also have a pamphlet file that includes smaller items, ephemera, such as brochures, pamphlets, newspaper articles, letters, anything that's like file folder size that, can't be stored on a shelf. That is going to be in our pamphlet file. So we also have an index to the pamphlet file on our website as well, and we are always happy at the reference desk to pull any files you're interested in as well. Lastly, we have our vault. So this photo at the bottom of the screen is actually a panoramic view of the vault. It is a very small room, shelves on all four walls. Any items in there are either particularly rare or fragile, or in some cases, just a strange shape to store elsewhere, or maybe a combination of the three. We have various formats such as DVDs and VHSs, and CDs and cassettes. We have a record collection. All of this is local information. If there's something in our vault that you want to look at, we have an entire AV station that we can bring out as well, so that you can listen to that record or you can view that VHS tape if you are interested. We also have books, various things like scrapbooks here. These are from the Turkey Festival that used to be held in Harrisonburg, and the poultry industry folks put together these annual scrapbooks. This is where we keep our originals of oral history recordings, unusual items such as a architectural model of the MRL Central Branch renovation project. We have a copy of Harrisonburg-Rockingham, which is actually currently out of the vault and on display outside of the genealogy room. So all kinds of fun stuff down there. It has a special non-water fire suppression system so that none of that stuff will get damaged in case of a fire. So yeah, that is the vault. If you ever have any questions, you are always welcome to ask at the reference desk. We are happy to provide assistance pulling items from the vault or photographs or pamphlet file folders. If you need a brief overview of what's in the genealogy collection, where things are, if you need help using the microfilm machine or just want to know how to get started, please stop by the reference desk. You can also email us at reference@mrlib.org or call us at 540-434-4475, extension 122. We're always happy to help.